Here's the deal. I'm gonna go ahead and as he's coming up here, I'm gonna introduce him because I'm like, I've got it made in the shade right now. He's going to come here in the middle. He's a co-host of Nerf This, the podcast that, of course, I listen to on the regular, plus a Hearthstone caster for HCT.
TESPA, actually,
TESPA,
right now.
Yep. True.
Okay.
Tournament he's chatting about today.
Really?
Of course, he's going to talk to us a little bit about the Hearthstone Championship Tour Summer Championship that's starting on the 28th of June. Xseven, the man, the myth, the legend. Welcome to our humble abode here.
Yay!
I've been called a lot worse.
That's true.
That's good.
Ditto. It's true.
Good.
I'm actually glad I made it here. I got caught on the way here. I thought I was actually at the studio because I thought I saw you outside waving. But it was a car lot. It was one of these.
Unbelievable.
Oh, man.
Do you know how many times I have been told
that?
that's
It looks a lot like that too.
It is. It's so weird.
It's so true. I knew that's
But the irony is
so familiar.
You muppet once.
Sitting in the lobby, I heard you from like 3 stories away.
I mean, that's
just Kate, and she has like a radar for people she likes. Like
It's true.
like she's like
Hey. You know me. So exactly. So first off, tell us about your, where you are, who you are, what's your experiences, role with Nerf This. Give us your 411 on Xseven, on your esports. Just learn us some knowledge.
Yeah. So essentially, I've been doing Nerf This now for. I think we're
3 years?
going in 3 years now. We're actually owned by eLeague, so we are on their payroll.
Like eLeague.
They haven't figured it out yet.
It's fine.
So yeah, we've been doing that for a while. It was great. I mean, Brian and I spent like 6 months just studying, ramping up to get to jump into the space, and it's been a lot of fun. We focus a lot on just the scene as well, a lot of business stuff.
Yeah.
And so.
It's very thoughtful. Part of the reason I like the podcast, it's usually about an hour and a half long-ish, but it's very thoughtful and you kind of need that commentary in the scene, and that would be what I would say.
Like thoughtful.
Yeah. She says it's very thoughtful. She's very
and thought-provoking. Quite honestly, it depends on when you get people started on things.
And then you're like, I'm really glad you drank on the show. So.
I am so glad because I usually drink while I'm listening.
Good.
Well. I think it's more than just when she's listening. So, speaking of podcasts, if you listen to the podcast or follow you on any social media, you know that you're a massive, and I love that. You are a massive Hearthstone fan, and recently got your chance to cast. Tell us about the experience. I mean, that's
big deal.
That's a big deal.
That was huge.
Dream.
That was huge. Yeah. So essentially, at the beginning of this year, like I've been following Hearthstone Esports for like the longest time.
Yeah.
And so at the beginning of this year, I'm kind of decided this is going to be the year that I'm going to cast something, even if it's just a work tournament, anything, right?
You're like this
I just
is
wanted
the
to
year. This is your bucket list. Got it.
Yeah. And so I think it was right around the end of February, I came up where they had the whole contest of so you think you can cast. And so every year prior, I'd missed it. And so this year I was like, all right, I'm going to do it.
You're doing it.
But the problem was like everybody I was supposed to do it with was either hired by Blizzard or working for TESPA and ineligible. So I literally had to put out a post on the forums saying, hey, here's my background. I drink, and then
I drink.
Yeah,
hired.
and then let's do a cast.
Brawls, right? Like there you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that we ended up doing, and so I ended up spending like 30 hours working on this whole project, and
I was going to say boo-hoo, but
casting like a 7-minute game over and over for like 15 hours.
Yeah.
That's fun. But I ended up finding like 7 or 8 people to work with, and ended up winning, which is crazy.
That's awesome. That is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk next week.
Yes.
Because we've got a Hearthstone Championship, the Hearthstone Championship Tour.
HCT Summer Championship.
Yep, that's okay.
I'm here for you.
I appreciate it, Xseven, because I've made this known to him that I'm not the biggest digital card game fan.
Who needs it?
They are. So let's talk. Tell me a little bit. Get me interested. I'm so sorry. I'm the worst, but it's true. Get me interested in what you're looking forward to next week when it comes to the competition.
And this actually isn't that hard. Hearthstone's amazing, and it should be very easy to get you interested. So anyway. Make it look good.
I'll do my best.
No
right?
pressure.
Right? Yeah. Nobody told me how to do this. But so essentially, it's broken up into 4 different regions, right? Sure. You've got China, you've got the APAC region, you've got the Americas, which is North and South combined,
right.
And you also have obviously Europe. And so so you kind of look at the different like narratives or the threads that are going on in the different regions. So in China, it's really hard because they kind of don't deal on the HCT points so much as the way that the rest of the world does. They have their own system.
Really?
So the people that are coming there are relatively like wild cards, you don't really know what to expect sometimes.
Pun intended.
Yeah. And so essentially, one of the people you need to look out for is Yeager.
Yeager.
Yeah.
This is what I needed.
Yeager is someone who has just dominated like the local scene there and has done very, very well. From Europe region, you look at Bunny Hopper, who's ex-Virtus Pro and is now with SK. Virtus Pro was like a great team last year.
Yeah.
They had some just amazing talent with like Dr. Hippie and Nyman, and now they've kind of broken apart. He's with SK, and this might be his last year. He's finishing up his PhD, so he's just giving it a go. And
So he's a
perpetually,
pro
like, top
plus
8.
a PhD candidate right now?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
I've done nothing with my life.
I think that's one of the awesome things about Hearthstone, though, right? It's like you don't have the same like post 24. You have to worry about Twitch. It's very brain intensive, a lot of memorization and stuff like that, plus knowing strategy, which actually why you can have much older players who.
And it's also 1v1, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but you can be part of a franchise SK.
I mean, like,
Oh,
I know a lot of the guys, like even like there's a lot of people in that scene who rep for teams. So.
Yeah, and so it's one of the things. One of the reasons why I really love it is because I'm one of those people just playing any game kind of like a min maxer, and it's one of those games where you can take a deck and you kind of are constantly tweaking it to see what's works to your best advantage, and especially when it gets into like a tournament meta, it's very different than the ladder experience. And in some ways, some people argue, but there are different things that happen. So continue with the different regions, right? You got it.
You got it. Or I'm actually really deferring to you because you're the professional here. Anyway, let's hear it.
In the APAC region, you have Tensoku, who is essentially a really well-known content creator, YouTuber there, and he's got a huge following. But he's trying to kind of make his competitive debut. Not so much of a debut; he's done that so far this year, but he's trying to get all the way to Worlds.
Yeah.
And then you also have Blood Trail, which is probably the coolest story of all of it. He's from Taiwan. He actually has never bought a pack of cards, or may have bought very few. He's a free-to-play player.
Really?
So he did like all arena, basically all the way.
So everything is earned through gold essentially, and he's made it all the way to this point. And he plays on an average of 90 games a day, and he plays it across 3 different servers. So he's constantly playing.
Wow. So his ability to understand the field is out of control.
Yeah. It's really impressive. So he's one I think to watch. And he's only been playing since January.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're playing 90 games a day, though,
you're
going to get pretty good pretty quick.
Yeah, or you're going to lose a hand or something.
So the other thing too that's nice about Hearthstone, and I think you would ask this, is like honestly, Blizzard, like with every new expansion, the other two, the meta changes pretty dramatically. So even if you come in like, January is right before Ravenwood.
I was going to say, wasn't there an announcement today? Come to think of it, am I wrong about that? Am I totally wrong about that?
I don't think today.
Never mind. Just kidding.
The point is that they just released an expansion, which changed the meta. A lot of the other stuff went to wild, so it's pretty easy to go in. The good thing about that is you don't have to memorize near as many cards.
Oh, it's a new Hearthstone meta report.
Yeah.
That's not near as cool as what we thought you were going to sell.
One word off.
So that's a cool thing about, like, you can actually have new players come in and actually learn the game because it's
old sets rotate out, you get new ones.
Yep.
And that was actually the scariest part of going in and casting for Blizzard the first time. It was the week after they dropped Witchwood, so nobody knew anything about the meta, including me, which is why I'm up at like 4 a.m. studying charts and like looking at everything, and then casting all day.
Like,
and
the
it was
cards
just crazy.
were pretty crazy for what that they added.
Yeah.
Like they've changed some. They had some pretty cool like overall like just cards and stuff that would be it was nuts. So it was fun for you.
Yeah. It's like no sleep for me. But honestly, I think one of the things that excites me most about this tournament is that the Americas probably have one of their best shots I think I've seen in a while.
How does the Americas region usually stack up against everybody? Like, what's the is there a powerhouse? Is it like Korea for LOL?
No, I mean I think it's usually
evenly?
you have like a lot of Brazil candidates or Canada. Canada's actually not represented this time. But you do have, I think there's 2 from North America, 1 from Argentina and 1 from Brazil. And Dog, which is he's kind of made his competitive return. I think back in like 2016, he was like really, really competitive, well known. Since then, he's mostly just been streaming and doing content creation stuff. And now he's right in probably one of the leading of the pack, so to speak. No pun intended, actually. But yeah, so with other than that, you've got Killin' All Day, who I've had drinks with and dinner with, and he's actually a really, really cool guy. Simply because he takes it, he rolls with the punches, because everybody kind of just makes fun of him for always being the 9th place. He always misses, and he almost missed
that's
this.
not even 9th place.
That's your
like
favorite kind of people.
I was gonna say I'm just gonna leave
He's got
this
a
right
he's got a
here.
perfect season.
Yeah.
Does he? Never.
So the hashtag YoCad was all about him,
Yeah.
the year of killing all day, because he actually made it to a playoffs this time.
oh,
Or
so
through the playoffs,
he
through
wasn't the
championship.
bridesmaid anymore.
No, he almost was. But went for the
Oh,
Swiss
no,
system.
no.
Went for the Swiss system. I think eking him through, but he made it, and he was actually he made it through the playoffs and did really well. And then
Awesome.
Reyes from Brazil, who I think might actually take it. I think he's my favorite for it.
Is that your? I was gonna ask who your
Yeah.
your number one
Whoa,
horse
there's
is.
stuff behind me.
There
I
is
move a lot.
stuff behind that. That's okay.
Yeah, don't trip on the light.
So anyways,
I
yeah,
did.
It'll illuminate the fall.
Reyes from you were just giving the story before, and I was just reenacting it. But
Lord.
Reyes
Yeah.
from Brazil actually is the only person to bring Warrior to this tournament, and he tweaked a lot. And I'm a big fan of Quest Warrior, or Taunt Warrior, whatever you want to call it. And he tweaked it a little bit so that it's kind of says, I don't care about aggro, which is a standard way of doing Quest Warrior. He says, I'm going to make it faster and gear it more towards that control matchup. And he made the bet that people wouldn't bring aggro decks.
Yeah.
And he really lucked out because there's only 2 people who brought it. One of them being Killing All Day, and I think the other one was Turna from EU. So the rest of the field brought really greedy control decks.
Oh, nice.
And he brought this kind of even greedier control deck, but against control. So it was a good call.
Interesting.
What 2 aggro decks did he do? Is it hunters and was it a hunter or was it warlock or?
So for killing all day, they primarily was kind of like the token druid. I believe he's doing like even shaman. He did bring the only off one was actual and even warlock, and it wasn't hunter. I think he might have brought. These were just released like 3 hours ago. He might have actually brought rogue was his other one. Something
wow,
a little
okay.
more aggressive in his lineup than
Interesting.
most. Yeah.
Well, see, this is one of the many reasons that we have someone like Seven on to learn me specifically some knowledge, and so you can bro out.
Well, I like Hearthstone. Like in and of itself, it's just one of those games that, like, I mean, you can continue to go back if you fall behind. Like I said, they're always changing the meta. I really love that team, and so you just really can't go wrong. And
I can see the changing of the meta being really intriguing. Plus, since it is a 1v1, you're not dealing with roster shuffle. Well, sorry, you can be, obviously, but there is that dynamic of 1v1 that's really fascinating with the changing of the meta all the time.
And they're experimenting with some of the team formats as well. So you have like a group of 3 people playing, and so everybody gets like a specific class, and so therefore if you get knocked out, you can't play that class or that deck anymore. So it's kind of this. We did it at the end of TESPA, and we were afraid it was going to be like all day doing like the best of 11 essentially, and it turned out to be really really neat because there's even more strategy too. Is like, who plays which deck better, who is a better pilot of a deck, and when that person, again, it's 3 people collectively playing it with you, so you're all like side by side, and then when that person loses, they have to like exit the stage. So now you're down to like 2 brains versus 3. So it's really neat.
That's fascinating.
To add a little bit of a different element to it.
Yeah, and I remember seeing some of that stuff because they've done some exhibition matches with people like
They did
Kip and all
BlizzCon,
those
yeah.
guys. BlizzCon and stuff where they had the 3 of them play. They all got a single deck, but 3 people had to basically play, and then there was one person who basically got to overrule. But yeah, they've done some stuff. I don't know. That game is. I want that game to dominate, so I'm super happy. Like, I love Hearthstone.
Okay,
I'll take
you
it.
guys
Yeah,
can
yeah.
both have this. Okay, so obviously the reason I know you is because you co-host literally my favorite podcast. Well, second favorite, West Wing Weekly, but that's
Wait.
only it's
It was. But what
so
happened
close.
in the last 20
I
minutes?
forgot about the West Wing Weekly, quite honestly. Doesn't matter. But
Oh, man.
tell us about the podcast,
Yeah.
how you guys got started, where you're going now. Like give us the deets, what people can expect if they listen, and they aren't just me who's sitting there obviously drinking and listening on the way to and from work.
The show's called Nerf This, although we may rebrand here soon because
Sure,
we
why
are owned
not?
by E-League, and things are up in the air. We're changing. Things are changing.
Things are changing.
So yeah, it's at nerfthis.gg or at Nerf This Crew if you want to hit us up on Twitter. It's a weekly show covering esports, everything from the businesses side of things to if we do attend a tournament, we kind of go a little bit down the rabbit hole and talk about like exactly what happened and so on and so forth. Again, there's Brian and Jules helps out. We also do a daily show now called Esports
yes,
Daily,
which is also on your, it's an Alexa, whatever you
so
call
it's
it.
like
Cool.
2 to 3 minutes every day of just kind of run down the latest news. That's been great. It's been a really cool thing for us, and we get to talk about a lot more esports in that sense.
I mean, you still bring a lot of Hearthstone in, let's be clear.
I'm the Hearthstone nerd. Yeah. I cut. We have to end up cutting like Hearthstone from this show like almost every time because I'll just we have to keep it to like 1 hour to an hour and a half. But yeah, so we started off. We were originally on Bleacher Report when they dove
That's
into
right.
esports. They kind of sort of exited, although they're kind of back in it again.
Yeah.
They kind of
The,
wavered.
the app is still there, but like,
Yeah, but Alex over there is doing a lot of a lot of good work to keep it alive and going.
Yeah.
And so, and then during that time when our contracts were up, we were at season 2 of E-League, the finals.
Yeah.
And-
oh, yes,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course. Was that Astralis' year? No, that was Cloud9.
Optic. That was
I got
Optics.
there
Yeah.
eventually.
It's
all right. It's all right.
She's got her usual. I just say Team Liquid most of the time, and that always gets me in.
Yeah, well, yeah. in
Yeah,
CS:GO,
well, and Dota, quite
And
honestly.
Dota, yeah.
Like,
Well,
whatever.
except I don't know if they're going to do it this year. They lost Miracle.
But yeah, so they were like, the entire crew was like, we listen to you all the time. We love your stuff. And they just basically said, what do you need to keep the show going? We're like, this is what we've been doing. And they're like, cool, done. And they've been hands off, which is great. So they don't
That's awesome.
influence
That's the
our
best way it should be.
content, nothing. So,
And obviously also biased about E-League, but I'm a big fan of both E-League and you guys' podcast, and it's awesome. You guys should absolutely listen to it, because the other thing is that while you do absolutely go through some of the wins and losses and some of that kind of stuff, the commentary that you and Brian have about the scene in general is really intriguing. Like, it's really one of those things where if you need to hear, like I said earlier, thoughtful commentary, super useful, because there's a lot of talking heads, there's a lot of yelly stuff. Almost did it.
She caught herself.
I get
She caught
it's
herself.
called
Can we get
it's
some,
called
can
growth.
we get some hashtag Cape hype in the
Growth.
channel? I'd like to see some hashtags.
I'm just saying, it's one of those things where when I want to hear about a thing that's like blowing up the scene, I always like to hear the commentary you guys have, because you look at it from the number of angles that I would appreciate as a viewer and a listener and a fan.
Thank you.
Speaking of fans, you're welcome.
was a
This is
transition.
my last thing, because I actually because I heard we know why you like Hearthstone, and I think you've already mentioned a bit, but like, give me the elevator pitch. If someone's like, convince me that Hearthstone is a thing, or digital card games. I don't know if you're into Gwent. Like,
Oh, please.
just do me the solid of just
Pokemon.
like
It's
just like
Pokemon
condense. I've seen the passion and I hear it every week, but just condense that for me. Like, why is it delight your digits?
Time's up. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. it boils down a lot to just the strategy element of it. And as someone who is constantly looking, like I said, like min-max their way through everything, like even playing World of Warcraft and during raiding times, it was like, how do I modify the armor, my gear to match my play style and do the best I can? And I did it competitively.
We really need a priest.
Yeah, right. And so I did play a healer.
There you go.
There, but
You seem like a support guy.
right.
Yeah, I feel like I don't need to be here. That's fine.
So, anyways, yeah. So, anyway, no, I think largely it is a strategy element to it. It. On the surface, it doesn't necessarily look too competitive or too in depth, but it really, really is, because the entire time you're thinking about how to play your cards around their win condition and whatever. And so even if you're a big fan of any kind of board game or whatever, like, you generally will find something you love about Hearthstone. It's worth playing, and one of these days I'll get you playing.
Yeah, why don't we
I'll get you
actually?
going.
I think we should. I think Kate and I should do an LFG with us
just
playing some
play
Hearthstone.
Hearthstone.
No, I mean, why not? I mean,
Why
honestly,
not?
I think you'd actually end up having a really good time. I think it's one of those things. It's actually really easy to understand. It's hard to master. But the other thing too is, like, we both start with some starter decks.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I'll
And
take a
as long
starter
as you
deck.
play a warrior and I play a mage, it'll be fun.
There's a lot of good, like, content creators out there, like Chump HS plays these kind of
Oh,
off
Trump,
the
yes.
Well, Trump is good, but there's another guy called Chump HS who
I was
plays
thinking
these
of
kind of like non-meta, like tries to take the worst cards in the meta and make decks around them just to surprise people and have fun with it, and really does a great job. Like, I watch it repeatedly. Trolden's another one for like funny moments too. So
And I was
good
thinking of
stuff.
Trump just as learning, because Trump
Yeah,
just
Trump
does,
is great
Trump
for
does
learning.
really the best job of, like, you can just watch and he explains everything.
Yeah.
He has probably some of the best, like, training YouTube videos out there. I also really dig Kip. Like, Kip is like a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Dude streams like 50 bajillion hours.
Yeah.
You can always catch him.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of catching people, I want to make sure that people can catch you, Seven. Where can they find you? We've already mentioned nerfthis.gg.
Yep.
And
The
Nerf
show
This,
is
yeah.
the show is at Nerf This Crew on Twitter, and I myself is xSeven, XSeven, just
Okay.